Hi, and welcome back to the Still Rolling Jiu Jitsu podcast. I'm Matthew Montgomery. Today, I've got a great guest for you. Chad Kuhn is the manager and head Jiu Jitsu instructor at East Coast Martial Arts in Canton, Ohio. He's a second degree black belt under James Klingerman. He's a first degree black belt in karate. He's been on the mats in some form since he was 7 years old. On top of that, he's also the owner of Limitless Tape, a brand focused on high quality finger tape and custom gear for athletes and academies. What I like about Chad is that he's not just someone who trains, he's someone who teaches. He leads a room, he builds a culture. He's had to figure out how to keep people improving over the long haul and not just for a few months when the motivation is high. So today we're getting into coaching, longevity, gym leadership, and the mindset it takes to stay in this thing called jiu-jitsu for decades. Chad, I appreciate you coming in, man. Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks,
joining
brother.
me.
Thanks for having me.
So let's get into it. We kind of talked a little bit online, and you've been doing martial arts since you were 7 years old. Um, so that a start out in karate then, or
Yeah. So my first class was 82 was my first class in karate. So I was always a small, skinny kid, and my dad wanted me to, be able to defend myself if needed. And where did we turn in the 80s was karate, right? That's what we had.
yeah?
That's what I did for quite a while, and just kind of lit my fire, as I say now, for other martial arts.
hmm Did you stick? Did you stick with it? Like, are you a high level black belt in
Uh,
karate then?
I wouldn't say high level. I mean, I stuck with it from about 7 years old to I would say about 11 or 12. I was pretty hardcore. Got my brown belt up to that point, and I had went back periodically through middle school and high school, and a little bit after. Um, but it just wasn't what I wanted anymore at that time. I started watching the UFC, again going to Blockbuster and renting the videos and all that thing, and I remember doing like a traditional Taekwondo class somewhere, and I'm like, this isn't what I want. I want something more. Um,
Yeah,
and just started trying to find grappling and jujitsu, and landed on East Coast back in 2004. They did a little bit of, more like I would say MMA style grappling then. But that's where I landed and that's where I stayed. So, yeah.
outstanding. Yeah. So you know, with a lot of us old heads, it's funny because um, we didn't have jujitsu around at all growing up,
No.
and then obviously the explosion with UFC. I remember the days going into Blockbuster looking for UFC tapes, and if they had one that was outstanding, that I hadn't seen. I think I probably rented some of them more than once.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so when, as you know, jujitsu is obviously kind of in this. I think we're kind of past like the early adopter phase. Um, Now most people kind of have they have an idea what it is. I still get the is it like karate question, but
Oh,
is
yeah, for sure.
it's much more mainstream. How did it feel when so you started in 2004? What was it like training back then? What were the mats like back then compared to what they're
It's different, man. It was a lot rougher. We didn't have somebody telling us like now when I have a new person come in, we explain some rules. If they roll or not the first time is kind of up to them. Obviously if they wrestled, I'm like, just go, you're good on the mats. But I explain like, hey, if something hurts, tap. If you can't tap, say something. Like nobody told me that my first class. I remember getting heel hooked my first class. You know, there was no do's and don'ts back then. It was just, kind of to sound cliche, survive a little bit, right? And coming from a karate background, being a small, when I started jujitsu, I was 128 pounds. Um, and I'm 6 foot tall. So um I'm very, tall and lanky, and I didn't have any wrestling, so I was getting beat up a lot. Um,
yeah.
and when I started at East Coast, we did no-gi only. Um, and then my instructor at the time, Mike Broom, would just got his blue belt, and I knew he trained with the gi on. So we talked, and he had trained in some guy's basement in Carrollton, Ohio, which is probably 45 minutes south for us in the middle of nowhere. So I contacted the guy. His name's Dave Miller. Um, he was like a blue, or maybe he had just got his purple belt from Hoist up in Cleveland. Hoist had that affiliate with Craig Kramer. And that's where David trained. So I called him like, hey, what do I do to come down? Just told me to come down. He charged $5 a class. And we would just go in his basement and do jujitsu, and that's where I got my gi training. So, and I would still cross train back at East Coast and go there, and yeah, it was a blast. When I got the gi on for the first time, it was really cool. He showed me some spider guard stuff right away, being long and tall, and I'm like, man, where has this been? So,
right?
yeah, it's really cool.
So actually, that makes sense. If you like playing Spider Guard, I can see where the tape come from.
Yeah, a
Uh,
little bit. I don't play it as heavy as I tried a little bit, but I have a very I would say a or a grip dominant game with my what I play.
okay. At what point did you think that, hey, jujitsu is going to be the thing that I do for a living?
Oh man, I don't that I don't that yeah, that didn't take effect for a while. I was just doing it because I loved martial arts, and I definitely got bit by the jujitsu bug. And I think most of us that are in, especially if you're, this is starting year 22 for me. I feel like we're all in no matter what, right? No matter what
Yeah.
we do, we're kind of that all in person. Um, Not once have I ever thought about quitting jujitsu in 22 years. Never thought about any of that. Like, maybe this isn't for me. Um, I started teaching a little bit more here and there when I was like, I think I was a three stripe white belt when I started teaching, just because I had to. We didn't have anybody. The blue belt that we
Right.
had some things come up, and he couldn't be involved as much. So I got the role to start teaching a little bit, and I would still go to Carrollton and learn from Dave and bring that back to East Coast. But it was several
Yeah.
years later when it became like, I guess, my job. So a little backstory on East Coast. East Coast was founded in 1986. This is our 40-year anniversary, um, by Steve Heineman. I don't know if you never heard the name Steve Heineman, but he was really big on the karate scene in the Canton, Stark County area. He was going out to California back in the day and training with the Machados. He was doing Thai boxing with different people. So he was like really getting into the MMA scene. Mr. Hyman was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in 2015.
Mm.
Oh, I'm sorry, he passed in 2015. He was diagnosed in probably 2011 or 2012. There was an opening for the gym manager came open, and he's like, hey, do you want this? And I didn't know if I did. I didn't want to commit because I had another job. But something told me I had to do this, right? And probably we're skipping a little bit, but probably about 6 months later after I took over, he passed away. So I just feel like, I was the one he wanted to run the gym, and I knew what his beliefs were with martial arts and how to run it. And here we are, 10, 12 years later, I'm doing it for a living.
That's outstanding. How long did it take you to get to a black belt?
14 years. 2018 is when I got my black belt from James.
Okay, that's outstanding.
Yep, and we
Yeah,
had some I wasn't with James the whole time. We had some other affiliations, and things fell through, and, everything happens for a reason. And when I'd known James through just the Midwest jiu-jitsu scene forever.
mhm.
He was the first guy, like, when I needed somebody, I'm like, "Hey, we'd like to affiliate with you," and the whole thing. So,
And I saw that Team East Coast, you guys have a lot of different things going on there. You've got
yeah,
multiple martial arts, and
we
it
do,
looks
yeah.
like you have yoga.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that caught my eye, though, is you have a historian. What is that about?
The what?
On the website,
Yeah.
somebody's listed as the historian in the
No,
gym.
I don't even know.
Okay. I was curious. I was like, "I wonder what the historian does." Um,
Yeah.
so do you cross train in the other martial arts? A lot of your social media, it's you're spending time in the gym, and I'll get into that in a bit because I have
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but are you still cross training, hitting
I
the
don't
other?
do our martial arts or karate program much anymore. I'm still very involved on that side as far as the day-to-day running of that program and the curriculum. So a little backstory on that is, our karate curriculum started as a Shotokan base, old school, very good art, obviously. But as I had mentioned before, Mr. Hyman he was always looking. He was the ultimate student, even though he was a seasoned black belt in the karate side. He was a purple belt in jujitsu as well. He was always wanting to have functionality based things in his curriculum. So we dissected that Shotokan curriculum. And at the time, we got rid of forms and kata. We didn't even do them. And we replaced that with Gracie, the old school Gracie self defense stuff, like kickboxing, Thai boxing for our stand up, and just functional self defense. Um,
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if you would come into our academy and see a karate class, it would look like an old school karate class. The kids are in white gis, they're lined up, it's yes sir, no sir, very structured.
Yeah.
But if you stuck around for 5 minutes, you would see those kids doing some jujitsu or, headlock defense, that kind of stuff. So,
That's
um,
good. I had Matt Thornton on a little bit ago, and I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's the founder of SBG,
yeah,
and he came up in a Jeet Kune Do environment, and then he sort of, he still loves Jeet Kune Do. This isn't a knock on it, but he kind of decided, you know what, I'm going to focus on the stuff that works, and I'm gonna abandon, you know, the woo woo, and things need to be pressure tested.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think that's what makes jujitsu special compared to some other martial arts is the fact that the proverbial mats don't lie.
Yeah.
Um, saying, um, I have a lot of white belts and blue belts, kind of what I'll say junior jujitsu folks
Mhm.
that listen to this. So some questions from a coaching standpoint. What do you think? What do you think that a lot of early students don't understand about drilling and why we drill?
Yeah, I guess it's just the drilling isn't fun. I mean, right? Like we just like, man, we got to do this X pass again. Yeah, yeah, we do. We have to do it a lot more, right? So I think it's just not fun, right? And especially if they get a taste of rolling, they're like, oh, when can we do that again, right? So I don't think, I think I think you have to have a good split of rolling and obviously drilling. Um, and I'm not like, and none of I have 7 black belts at our academy now, which is amazing. And not one of them really is like a drill sergeant type. Hey, you got to drill, and you're not gonna, like I always tell people, like, hey, you pay good money to come here, right? Put your time in. If you look around, who's drilling? It's the upper blue belts, it's the purple belts and up. They're still drilling that X pass that I've taught hundreds of times, and
Yeah.
that's why they're really good at it. So, I think it's just you just have to talk to them and encourage them that it eventually will get better. But even at black belt and 20 some years in, you still have valleys, right? I mean, you still have low times. You're like, man, do I know what I'm doing or not? You just have those bad nights sometimes. But those
I
bad those bad nights are better than not being on the mats too, you know?
Yeah, I had that a similar conversation this morning with a black belt, um, and number one, he's a tremendous coach and instructor and mentor for me, um, but we were going over some things that he didn't feel as comfortable with,
Yeah.
um, and he's like, man, he's like, I feel all this because he got his black belt a couple months ago. He's like, I'm feeling all this. I'm a black belt now, and I should be better at this. And um, I said, I think that's sort of what they talk about when you're starting over as a black belt is you're aware of where your deficiencies might be and where you'd
Yeah.
probably need want to get better. Um, as far as the drilling, the guys that at least guys that I've watched over the years, the guys that are really good, the Terminators.
Yeah.
That we had a guy named Tommy, and it didn't matter what was going on. Tommy was just honestly even smaller than me. Smaller,
Mhm.
he was an average sized guy. But I tell you what, I knew that if I was rolling with Tommy was just going to toy with me and
Yeah.
dismantle me and move on. And that guy was always drilling when I came in, and he was always drilling when I was leaving. And
Yeah.
um, so I believe in it. And I think one of my old coaches also said when I was a white belt, he goes, "You're starting to move like a blue belt." I was like, what does that mean?
What is it?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Now I know, but
Yeah.
so what do you think is something that you might emphasize that a lot of schools don't?
I don't even know. I mean, I think, and I'm sure every school has this, but really, I feel our atmosphere is what keep people coming back. Everybody is, when there's a new person, I watch and people go up to him and introduce themselves, like, hey, keep coming, that kind of thing. Um, but I really believe in the atmosphere we have,
Yeah,
and
you got
and there are times too where it's like, you see a lot of people come and go, right? man, if we had everybody that started at our gyms, we'd have over thousands of members. And sometimes I get wrapped up in that, like, oh man, we've lost 10 members in the last year or whatever the number is. And I'm like, why is that? What aren't we doing? What are we missing? But sometimes I think we can do everything right, and some people just aren't for it, right? Like they start with jujitsu, or man, I like this, and then it's like, man, this is hard. It's not easy, or it's not what you thought it was. So I think as the manager of the gym, I think you have to find that spot where it's like not everybody's going to stick around, if that makes sense, you know?
So getting, you've built a culture, right? So you've
Yeah.
been managing a long time, and you've built a culture over time. And I think, I remember the days 20 years ago on the mats when it was Shark Tank and kind of survival of the fittest. And a lot of the people now that are enjoying jujitsu may not have stuck it out during that
For
time
sure.
period of jujitsu, which is a shame because I do think that while there's some people that may decide that jujitsu is not for them, I think that we've had many more over these last probably 5-10 years that are getting the enjoyment out of it because
Yeah.
the culture has improved.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think the culture has improved, and us as managers, leaders, instructors, we know what not to do, I guess, right? Or we know how to make it a business and how to treat people.
well, and that could very well be kind of the gist of it because we were talking about you were starting to teach as a white belt and you were learning under another blue belt, and
Yeah.
that kind of dynamic generally doesn't exist without having at least an in-house black belt most places. There's probably some brown belt places, or actually
Yeah.
I know of a Gracie University guy that's a purple belt. But, you know, so maybe we've all just matured because
I
I
think
think,
so. I trained in a guy's basement, right?
yeah,
If you hear of a person training in a basement now, we're like, what are you doing? Why there's people there's gyms everywhere now.
yeah,
You go to these local MMA fights and you have these independent fighters that are training in their basements.
right,
Like, what's happening?
yeah, they're out punching trees in the forest, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Um, yeah, and so building what I mean, what do you think would separate a good gym culture from a toxic one at this point?
man, never, yeah. You hear a lot of, that's a good question. That's a good question. I guess it's just, maybe the instructors aren't engaged, with their team. Um, I guess that would be the biggest thing, is just not being a part. Maybe they're just there to teach and they go sit down, or whatever. They're not helping people. But yeah, I think, yeah, that's what I would go with. Just bad leadership.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that that's probably accurate. I think
Yeah.
leadership, starts at the top, obviously, or the
Sure.
cultural start at the top.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's those gyms too. We've probably all been to them that when you go there, you're going to fight, right? Like
mhm,
I always tell my guys, like we can roll hard because jujitsu is that great art where we can spar hard. But I think doing that and fighting are two different things, right?
sure.
You know, like
Yeah.
we've all been to those gyms where you're just like, man, it's gonna be different today, or whatever. But and I'll have white belts I roll with. My famous line is telling people do jujitsu, and obviously they don't know what that means at first, right? Because I'm like, man, you are coming at me, and I don't.
Mhm.
I'm older now, so I'm protecting myself. So if you want to come at me, we can roll hard, and then we'll stop and talk about it a little bit. I had this white belt. He would probably be a blue belt by now, but he had a little injury unrelated to jujitsu. um, very athletic, young kid, very good shape, strong. And a couple years ago ish, probably he came in and rolled, and man, it was like a fight, right? And
Yeah.
I tapped him a couple times, and we got done. And I'm like, hey man, you need to learn jujitsu. And I tried to explain what that meant at that time. Fast
Yeah.
forward to late last year, he did a tournament, white belt tournament, and I think he went like between gi and no gi, like 6-0, 7-0 on the day. A few subs, and before his gold medal match, we were talking and he's like, I know what you meant now. I know what that means to start doing jujitsu. He's like, I was really mad at you when you told me that.
Yeah.
I didn't get it, but he's like, he thanked me and he's like, I understand now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've had that conversation, more than a few times with guys that come in and they have attributes, right? They're
mhm.
big, strong, fast, athletic, and that role in the morning on 6 a.m. on a Wednesday,
Yeah,
that's not about winning and losing. And so,
right.
I kind of say there's a time to have all your attributes, and that's when you're competing or if you're in a real fight. You have those, keep that in your pocket,
Yeah.
do jujitsu, learn jujitsu, get technical so that when
Yeah.
you come up against somebody that is equally big, strong, athletic, powerful, but you have technique, you're going to win.
Yeah.
If you don't have technique or they do, you're going to lose. Um, that's been a kind of a helpful coaching tip for several people that
Yeah.
are getting better. Um, what is something that you what's a principle you try to instill into every student over time?
Um, so my big thing is just, representing that patch that's on your back, right? Be a good person, help your teammates. And as the lower ranks get the higher rank, helping them be leaders, helping them teach a class. And there's some guys that I have that, up to brown belt has never taught a class, but usually I'll go up and like, especially if they're really good at something, right? I'll be like, hey, why don't you teach next Monday and Wednesday? I'll be here, but you're going to lead class and you're going to show them, this particular move that you're good at. So, and that helps them get a little more comfortable. And, I have a lot of people that will help off to the side, but getting up, as you know, in front of a room of 20, 30 people or whatever, it can be a little nerve wracking, especially once you show what you want to show. And they're like, well, what about this?
Yeah.
And then the questions come. And that's the hard part of teaching, I feel, because you're like, what if I don't have the answer?
Yeah, I go through that. So I'm going through that right now a little bit. So I'm not a black belt. I've trained off and on for a long time, but I
Yeah.
moved around the country, started, stopped, and
Hmm.
so I'm getting to a point now where I'm teaching some fundamentals. But I'm not. I wouldn't call myself the fundamentals instructor. We have a black belt for that. Um, but when I get out and I'm teaching something to the class, it's a completely different animal.
Hmm.
Um, Teaching to 20 people rather than helping the one-on-one, because
Yeah.
over the years I got really good at helping the one-on-one, and I've always got this, that, or things that I can kind of help them along. But when I'm talking to the whole class, boy, it's really been kind of a kind of a mind trip, where it's
Yeah.
like, I know that I know this stuff, but why can't I articulate it as well as I would like to in front
Yeah.
of everybody? um,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Articulating it is even harder, right?
yeah,
I mean, yeah, it's not easy.
yeah.
Yeah.
um, What how long do you think you were teaching jujitsu before you said, I'm comfortable teaching, really any class?
Man, I've taught for a long time. I mean, probably, upper blue belt, purple belt, maybe, depending on, I think we all have I can teach a lot of different things, but we all have those, like, this is my jam. And
Hmm.
I know it inside and out. If any questions come, I have the answer. you know? And I'm sure that just gets better as you go, but I think we all have those little things that we're, we really like. Like I like loop chokes a lot, right? And I get that from James, my instructor. Like James is like the loop choke guy, and I've watched his instructionals, like when we were, be old, like DVDs, the actual DVD. I've watched his stuff so many times, and then he would come and teach a seminar on it, and it would be verbatim on how I taught it because I watched him so much. So I'm like, I got this.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's just just like drilling in jujitsu, teaching is going to get better as you go. I think as instructors, what we fight now more is there's knowledge everywhere at your fingertips. I think maybe YouTube was probably just getting going when we were, when I started. So you didn't have people seeking out all that stuff. And now you're like, why, you have a guy come in, well, I saw this. What do you think? I'm like, and then you have to kind of dissect it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would point to probably like around like 2011, 2012. It was when guys were coming into the gym with whatever YouTube berimbolo they found and,
Yeah.
um, teaching, you know, I think 'cause my game is very basic. I'm a big, heavy guy that now has years behind me.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna invert. The idea
Yeah.
of me trying to teach inverted techniques, I don't even know how I would a approach it. Um, but this this podcast kind of started more about longevity for the practitioner. um you've stayed in it for decades.
Yeah.
What's the hardest season that you've ever had in your training life?
So I would say go back to like I was very fortunate where I had no major injuries that kept me off the mat. We all have aches and pains and things that hurt, and but I always just kept training because for me, like if I take too much time off, I feel worse. Honestly, I kind of get stiff, my hands hurt, my knees ache. But when I keep going, it just feels good. So I think it was probably 2022 or 23. I sprained my MCL. I was passing somebody's guard. They caught my foot and I kept passing and it popped. I can still hear it to this day. Like it popped and it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
I was in the middle of our mats. I kind of pushed myself back against this pole we have and I just kind of sat there. And, when that something like that happens, I started sweating, like all the adrenaline's kicking in. I'm like, man, that did not sound good.
Yeah.
Uh, and it got really stiff. And I remember texting my girlfriend. I'm like, "Hey, I got hurt," which all of our spouses, partners have heard us say that probably 100 times. Um, and when I got home that night, she was waiting at the back door. She's like, "Oh, you're really hurt," because I was like limping through the yard to get into the house.
Yeah.
Uh, and luckily, it was just sprained. And I have a one of my purple belts. Uh, is like a chiropractor, and I went to see him, and there was like, he's like, you don't need an X-ray or an MRI. Nothing's like broke or tore or anything. So I started doing like PT with him and cold laser therapy. I feel was like, I don't know if it's placebo or not, but I feel it worked. So yeah, that kind of got me back through that. And then I started lifting after that. And I think that's what's helped my longevity now.
Okay. Yeah. So, I follow you on socials and I see you post quite a bit weight training.
Hmm.
Um, and so you do you think that that's a like a primary reason why you're able to keep
Yeah.
at it?
Knowing what I know now, but prior to lifting, I never lifted my whole life. I was always that guy like jujitsu's all I need. It's all my trainings, right? And then when that injury happened, I'm like, well, maybe I need to start strengthening my body, not just getting strong, but just getting your body um, ready for that kind of stuff. We put a lot of wear and tear on ourselves.
Yeah.
And around that time, I was off the mats for probably 4 or 5 months, and that's the biggest stretch that I've ever been off the mats. And when I got back, good friend of mine now, Glenn Hayes, he's a blue belt under me. He's a personal trainer at a local gym. And I'm like, hey, would you ever want to trade private lessons? I'll give you jujitsu lessons. You train me to lift. He's like, absolutely. So a little over 2 years later, and I just lifted with him today. And yeah, I lift 3 days a week with him, and I do a couple privates a week with him on jujitsu side, and it's a perfect trade off. And I feel like
That's awesome.
yeah, it's really helped my game. One of my black belts, Tim Stinson, told me like when I started feeling some results of getting stronger, he's like, "You have 20 years of jujitsu now that you're adding strength to. Most people start strong and they try to figure out how to add jujitsu in. It's harder to do it that way. So I've been, luckily I can feel like if I need a little extra horsepower, I have it. You know,
Yeah.
and it made me feel good, and yeah, I'm loving it.
Well, and that's good. So, I talk a bit about this, being an ultra heavy. I created a lot of bad habits getting away with stupid stuff because I was strong.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure.
or stupid stuff, being a heavy person, trying not to be heavy on people. So
Yeah.
they'll actually roll with you. But, you know, the lighter jujitsu practitioner, they have no choice but to get technical right away.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
it's not an option. Um, and so the idea of getting stronger after you've already become technical, that's
Yeah.
kind of like um, sounds perfect to me. I've got
Yeah.
to do it the other way around. I
Yeah.
you know what? So you lift a few days a week. Are you training on those? Are you training jujitsu the same days you're lifting?
I have been, and I just had this talk with Glenn about like, are my gains in lifting being taken away from how much I do jujitsu, if that makes sense. Like, because I'll lift 3 days a week and then I'll do jujitsu 4 or 5 days a week.
Hmm.
And there's a couple days where I teach noon classes, so I'm doing it twice in one day. So I've really been like trying to count my macros now and get enough protein so my body feels good. But I'm going to start probably next week of lifting 4 days a week. So I'm gonna add a day without Glenn, just on my own. And then I'm probably gonna only roll 3 days a week
Okay.
and see how that affects my body and my, get my gains in the weight room too.
That actually brings up a pretty good point. I see it kind of make its rounds on the internet occasionally about, when, red flags in a school, the instructor's not rolling. Well, the
Yeah.
instructor's also watching people, making sure that they're being safe. That
That's true.
instructor may have taught a private or three before you came to class. They may have taught other classes. They may have been lifting. They may have their splits. So there's a lot of reasons why coach is not getting that role with you every time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, so you mentioned diet and macros and, you know, so you're kind of getting the full balance of it all
I'm
that
trying. I've
our
never
struggle
been a
with.
guy that like wanted to count macros. And I started off, Glenn told me, he's like, just count your protein. Try to get like 170 grams a day. Which isn't as hard as I thought it was if you eat meat, right? It's not, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not hard either. So
Yeah.
I've went from there to actually counting all my macros and seeing what I can get in a day. I get between probably 2,200 and 2,600 calories a day, right?
Okay.
I don't know if I could do more than that. I feel like
Right.
pretty good at that amount. So, but I eat pretty clean. Not that I don't. I was, excuse me, last year, or I've always been a fast food guy too, because why not? I've never had to like really watch, but you really notice once you start eating cleaner, how bad that makes you feel, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I do a lot of like ground beef and rice and eggs and chicken, of course, but yeah.
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 That's when I get into phases when I am eating healthy, the idea of going through like a drive through, it's just like, ugh. Like
Yeah.
why would I want to eat that? Um,
Yeah.
but what is something that we'll say a 40 or 50-year-old guy starting out, um, what advice would you give him?
Um, roll with the punches and don't stop. Don't quit. I mean, do jujitsu. You have to have that tough conversation sometimes, right? I don't think there's anything magic you can tell them that's going to make it all better sometimes. We all talk about those nights where you drive home with the radio off in complete silence because you just had that night, and I've said, when we line up at the end of class, I've had those days where like, hey, I did not want to do jujitsu tonight. For whatever reason, I was tired, I had a bad day, but I've never left class regretting that decision,
Yeah.
So and also, I let most of my guys, or a lot of my guys, are blue collar guys. They work, they get up early, they go to work, then they have to fit this in with their family.
Yeah.
Um, I'm fortunate that I do it for a living now, so it's easier for me too. But I've been that blue collar guy too, where I work 12, 13 hours a day and I would go to jujitsu, and it's not easy. It's not something everybody can do. But
Sure.
I just, I take it out on my own time to like, if I haven't seen somebody in a week or two that is usually there 2 to 3 times a week, I text them like, hey man, what's going on? Where are you at?
Yeah.
Do you need anything? Is anything, whatever. Like I really try to reach out to my guys that I, especially like I said, if I haven't seen them for a while.
Well, I think it's critical to, it's hard, like, it's a lot, especially, like, you're raising kids. I took breaks because it's coaching baseball or, coaching this or that. Um, but what I would also say is that my until I got really truly
Yeah.
consistent, 3 days a week at least, uh, I was not getting better at jujitsu. I don't think I was. I think, and some people say 2 is enough, which, probably, but
Probably.
if you're taking big breaks, you know, all the time, you're not gonna get good.
No.
Um, it's there's like at least a 2 to 3 week, like, if you've been off for, months, you're gonna have 2 or 3 weeks of a break-in period to get back to, even feeling like you're surviving. Um,
Right.
it's not like riding a bike. It's
No, no,
basically
no,
the best
it's
way to
not.
put it.
And like anything, you get out what you put in, right? You could be there 4 days a week, but if you're not drilling, or if you're just sitting around, that's gonna show too, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
more than you've heard that saying, "Comparison is the thief of joy." That, I mean, we have to fight that as instructors, man. You always like, "Oh, well, Johnny's doing this," and well, we can't compare ourselves to that guy for whatever
Yeah.
reason. You can't compare the 40-year-old dad with the 22-year-old guy that doesn't have any responsibilities right now. You know?
I had questions this morning from a guy that's starting. He came and watched class this morning, but he has a son that trains, and he asked me about, I see that, is it a certain number of classes? And he goes, it doesn't necessarily have to work that way because somebody just got 2 stripes today. I
Yeah.
said, well, there's merit too, and built into these things. Um, you know, uh, I'm gonna give him a shout out, Nate Lemieux. I told him probably a year ago when he was getting started, he was a white belt. I knew immediately when I started training with him, I said, dude, you are going to catch and blow by me, before you know it. And he kind
Yeah.
of looked at me like I was crazy. And then, you know, I he got his blue belt, I think, in under a year. And then, uh, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, he got 2 stripes onto the blue belt.
Okay.
And he kinda looked at me like, "Why is this happening?" I wasn't promoting him, but I just said, "It's
Yeah.
because," I said, "I told you." I said, "You remember details better than anybody that I think I've ever seen." And he's 30, something. He's not old, he's not young. He's kind of a middle-aged, ju from a jujitsu standpoint. Um, and then this morning he got 2 more stripes. So
Oh,
he's
no.
4 stripe blue belt now.
Yeah.
Um, and he looked uncomfortable when he came back to the wall standing next to me. And I said, "You absolutely deserve them. You are,"
Yeah.
because he's challenging, you know, challenging some black belts.
Yeah.
Um, and I said, it's you absolutely deserve it. I don't care if you've been doing jujitsu, for less than a 2 or 3 years. It's you know
Yeah.
you're really good at jujitsu, is what it is. um,
Yeah, there's so much more exposure now. Like, it took me 14 years to get my black belt.
yeah.
Now that I feel that learning curve is way down, like maybe 8 to 12 years to get your black belt, depending on the person and what they put in. But, at our academy, like I said, there's 7 black belts. We probably have 15 classes a week. When I started, there was 2 classes a week.
Hmm.
So now your opportunity to train is so much bigger, right?
Yeah.
So you can get
Absolutely.
so much, and it's hard for me being an old school guy, being like, "Man, you got your blue belt?" I was a white belt for 3.5 years, I think. So trying to it's okay. It's okay. He's put the work in. It's not your
Yeah.
path, it's their path, you know?
Yeah. And
So
frankly, like, so he and I both, we train at, we're AM guys. Um, you know, there's a 5 AM, a 6 AM, 7 AM. I go to the 6 AM
I go
and 7 AM. And
Okay.
so does Nate. And so we're kind of getting 2 classes in one shot, but
Mhm.
it's, 4 or 5 days a week. Um, so if you can train at that rate and you can maintain it, yeah, you're gonna advance. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
but
And,
to the
you
new
know,
guy,
shout out to you guys that do AM classes. I do not lead our AM classes. I will not be there ever. So that's even more impressive is the guys that train in AM, I feel.
so, number 1, the zombies that are already in there, like, that started at 5, when I come rolling in
Yeah.
at
No,
6,
that's
I'm
great.
still getting sleep out of my eyes, those guys are nuts. Um,
Yeah.
Really, the reason that I started training in the morning, I was not a morning guy for
Yeah.
until this last year. Um, we became empty nesters. Uh,
Okay.
my youngest went off to college, and so we're empty nest. And if I'm leaving and doing jujitsu 4 or 5 evenings a week, well, now my
Mhm.
wife's home alone, without
Right.
anybody in the house other than the
Yeah.
dogs. So, I started training in the morning so that, she would have somebody to talk to.
Right.
Um, and it's actually worked out really well. I think that I'm actually getting better, faster, I'm more motivated. It starts my day off right.
Yeah.
By the time I'm going to work, I've already got a couple hours on the mats in, and so I'm
Yeah.
feeling good, and, that blood flow's been going. I'm sharp. So, don't knock the AM classes until you tried it if you're listening. You're
Yeah.
nuts for doing it. But,
Yeah.
um,
For sure.
in some schools, I think, do you have many AM guys?
Actually, yeah. 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 I think we've had an AM class for, I don't know, is it 3 or 4 years now, maybe? And, one of my guys came to me then, Brad, and said, "Hey, we want to start this up." And I'm like, "Well, let's look at, my thing is before we put a class on the schedule, who's going to teach it and who's going to back it up in case you can't teach it.
Right.
Those are my requirements."
It's critical.
Um, yeah, because like it's not going to be me. I'm not the backup for the AM.
Yeah.
Um, but we got it all lined up and they have a good, probably 10 to 15 people that come to most classes, 3 days a week. We do Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday AM classes. And yeah, they love it.
Yeah. And then when you have, some sort of team event, the AM guys show up and all the PM guys are going, "Who the heck
Who was that guy?
who is this guy? I haven't seen him in months and he's a purple belt now?" Um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, yeah, and that's the truth. You have to have somebody that's gonna teach it and a backup. There's nothing more frustrating than
Yeah.
showing up to jujitsu and there's nobody there, uh,
Yeah.
open the door. Um,
Yeah.
that used to happen, it hasn't happened in a long time for me, but I remember back in the day driving up and you're like, "Where is everybody?"
Where's everybody at?
Or
Yeah.
where's coach, I should say. Sometimes, there's 2 or 3 people waiting that, like, word didn't get out to you. Um, so limitless tape,
Yeah.
uh, how was that born?
So, I had used different finger tapes in the past and I was using a certain one and there were some things that happened with them that I didn't like, so I quit using them. And I was doing the Limitless podcast with my friend Terry, my student Terry Seaton, and he's like, I don't know if I went to him or I might have went to him and like, man, we should do our own tape company. And he's like, let's do it, let's try it. So he was kind of the head of it, right? At first, and he got a bunch of samples in from different vendors that we found, and we gave
Yeah,
them to the guys at the gym. They're like, "Hey, use and abuse this stuff, and let us know which ones you like." And we found one we like with a vendor, and we just started. We just bought a bunch and went from there. And Terry kind of bowed out of the Limitless side, so I just do it now. Just trying to get it out there.
yeah,
Everybody, yeah, a lot of people use tape. Um, So then I started doing the custom gear with it because the tape sales weren't the best. So I'm like, I need something to kind of, go with this. So I started doing custom gear and that kind of stuff with it. So
okay. Do you have tape handy?
I don't actually.
Okay. Well,
I don't
don't
have
worry about
any.
it then.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask for a demo.
Oh
So
yeah.
I sprained I sprained the big knuckle on my middle finger, bent it all
Okay.
the way down, and
Yeah.
so I've kind of been taping it to the next, and then, well, kind of just doing it like, sort of the X pattern on
The
the
X pattern.
on the
Yeah.
fingers, and then tape them together.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to figure out how can I. It's kind of just one of those weird things where it's grabbing onto things. It's just driving me nuts. But the middle finger, do you tape it to the ring finger or your index? And
I would
uh,
probably tape it to the ring finger, I believe.
okay, I'll try
I
it
think
that
that's
way
just how I would
next.
do it. Right, yeah, try that way.
Yeah. Um, so I've been playing with that a little bit. Actually, I last week I rolled with racket balls in my hands,
There you go.
and just trained with balls and focused on frames instead of
Yeah,
grabbing onto anything. It was actually a lot of
yeah.
fun. Um,
Yeah, I used to do that when I would have guys that gripped and ripped and went really hard, I'd make them roll with tennis balls.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's great. I learned it from a couple brown belts that destroyed me without their hands, and once my ego recovered, I went, "Oh, that's a good idea to work on stuff."
Yeah.
So, um, yeah. Um, so the tape, where they can get it at limitlesstape.com.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
you can just Google search Limitless Tape or look on Facebook or, Instagram, it's all on there, yeah.
good.
Yeah. As far
Um,
as the gear, I have a few T-shirts and stuff that I do, like, drop ship stuff with, like the print on demand stuff.
yeah,
Um, but, like, custom gear, like rash guards, gis, and stuff, I don't keep anything in stock just because I don't wanna sit on that kinda money right now, I can't.
okay,
So but I do custom gear for academies, so if you know any academies that need gear and that kinda stuff, I can pretty much do anything.
okay. Yeah, we got a lot of guys that shop.
Yeah.
Um, what what do you think, as far as um your game, what's your favorite position to play?
I'm a guard guy, typically open guard. I play a lot of butterfly half.
Okay.
Um, just helps me not get smashed a lot with that butterfly hook. I can always kind of feel where they're going. So butterfly half is probably my game. A lot of that, yeah.
Okay.
So
What's the worst advice that you commonly hear?
the worst advice.
What are people
Um,
telling other people to do that you're just shake your head and you're like, "No."
yeah, drop back for footlocks when they can't pass guard.
There you go. That's a good one. Yeah.
With that said, I will say, I don't know, when I was coming up doing jujitsu, footlocks were kind of a frowned upon thing. Right? It was
Mhm.
like, "Hey, don't just footlock me, beat me with jujitsu." I've heard people say that, right? Um, so coming up, we didn't do a lot of leg attacks and footlocks at all.
Yeah.
I have a couple brown belts, Dan and Jay Stu, that are really good at footlocks and heel hooks and entanglements and entries. So, both of them, I lean on both of them a lot to kind of get us up to speed. And I've kind of said this is the year where I really want to work on some foot stuff, some leg stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of funny because somebody coming into jujitsu right now, you know, footlocks are kind of part of the game at this point.
Mhm. Oh
We
yeah.
teach them in our school, and but back in the day, Dean Lister was kind of the guy that,
Yeah.
he was a villain in ADCC because he was leg
Yeah.
locking everybody.
Yeah.
And, he's the nicest guy in the world, um, but yeah, a lot of the Gracie old heads, uh, boy, Dean Lister, what's he doing? You can't be leg locking people. You gotta use, yeah. And now this is where we live now. It's a
This is
10th
where we're
planet
at.
kind of.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. If you could give every older beginner one rule, what is it?
One rule,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
I would just, yeah, I hate to keep being cliche, is just keep coming and do jujitsu, learn jujitsu, you know?
Okay. Your mindset over the years probably changed quite a bit compared to when you started. What's been a big mindset shift that you could point to that kind of changed the way that you train?
Uh, I don't know if there was a mindset shift or not. I mean, I feel, and it's more recent than anything, is the addition of lifting. That was my mindset change. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that before. I didn't think it was needed. So
Yeah.
you can, if you have time to cross train and add some type of weight program to your jujitsu, I 1,000% think you should do that.
Okay.
I would say that's
Um,
my biggest thing.
yeah, I do think, you know, I struggle with it. And I've had this conversation multiple times where, you know, I was in the Marine Corps once upon a time. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I kind of like, I did, I was like, I'm not running for distance anymore. Like, why
Yeah.
would I do that? I hated it. It was, and I was a kid that ran 5Ks in school a little bit. Um, I think the Marine Corps kind of ruined it. And every so often I get this idea, okay, I'm going to lift, I'm going to run. I need to add this in. I know that these are things that I need,
Right.
and I just don't have the discipline to do them. Were you always somebody that could just decide you're going to do it and you do it, or
I
did you
think so. I
seem
think
right?
with a lot of things, like a lot of us are stubborn and you don't, and I'm glad you said discipline because I don't think motivation is real. Right. Everybody wants
Okay.
to, I'm not motivated. I'm not this. I'm like, it's discipline. It's a switch you have to flip. But
Yeah.
I think once I make my mind up, to do something, I do it.
Okay.
You know, in everyday life, or like I never wanted to count my protein and macros. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then one day it's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that now. Um,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Back in it's been well, no, probably 7 or 8 years ago. Um, I chewed tobacco a lot, right?
Okay.
And always, I never thought about quitting or anything. And I got with my girlfriend Autumn, and she's like, "Hey, you think you'll ever quit?" And I quit that day, cold turkey, right? So
Yeah.
it's you can do it. It's a mindset thing. You just have to
I'm
flip.
curious about that. So I used to smoke,
Yeah.
and I started smoking in the Marine Corps because
Hmm.
everybody else got to go and have a break. If you smoked, they'd go off in the smoke pit,
Yeah.
and if you're not smoking, well, then you're working. And
Hmm.
so I started smoking, so I got to have a break too. Um,
Yeah.
and then when I left the Marine Corps, I quit. It was
Yeah.
like an environmental thing. I quit. A few years later, I became a defense contractor, and I was back around the Marines. Guess what I
Hmm.
started doing again? I started
You're
smoking.
smoking again.
Yeah, it was like immediate. It was just kinda like part of the culture, and then when I left defense contract work, I don't smoke now. Uh,
That's wild. Yeah.
yeah, and it was never a thing where, it was I wasn't having to do Nicorette or patches or any of that
Yeah.
other stuff. It was
Yeah.
just, "Hey, yeah, I'm not buying cigarettes and I'm not smoking."
Yeah.
So I'm always curious about, the people that have a really hard time quitting, and maybe it's just, I don't know. I don't
It could be a
understand that
product
piece
of
of.
maybe part of your environment, like you're saying. Because I do, when I used to work in factories, like a blue collar type job, and I was, a lot of people did that there, and that's
Yeah,
how I started. That's how I started
yeah,
doing it. So the time that I
yeah,
did quit, I wasn't around those people anymore. So maybe that made it easier too.
yeah, yeah, and that the dip piece of it, the chewing tobacco, um,
Yeah.
we do it to stay awake. If you got
Yeah.
midnight watch and you're out in the field, or if you're sitting in classes, and you haven't slept in forever, you throw a lip and you can kinda just stay awake.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
but,
Yep. I did the same thing with, I used to be an avid Pepsi drinker, like like a lot. And one day I'm
yeah,
like, I'm not gonna drink this anymore. And I stopped. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I hear people talk about stopping drinking coffee, and I can't picture. I like coffee too much.
Yeah,
Um,
I do 0 caffeine, so that is one thing I don't do.
okay. 0
Yeah,
caffeine.
0.
Is it how long has that been?
I mean, since I quit drinking like pop, probably, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago,
Holy cow.
something like that.
So is it just you're just water?
I mainly
Caffeine-free tea?
like
What about tea?
I do decaffeinated tea.
Okay,
Yeah, I do, yeah. Yeah, and
interesting.
I drink like lemon water I drink. Sometimes I'll get the little packets of flavoring, like there's a healthier, brand out there. And then if I want pop, I drink these. I don't know if you've ever drank these. Zevia.
Uh, no, I've never had one of those. I have poppy.
Yeah, poppy, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a
Yep, I've
probiotic
had those before.
cider-based
Mhm.
thing. I
Yeah,
don't have any idea if it's actually healthier at all, but
yeah. It's just yeah,
mentally I can
these
pretend.
Dias have they have nothing in them, like 0. It's a this is a cola, but it's clear. Um,
Really?
so yeah, but when I
Okay.
first started drinking them, I'm like, "These are terrible because 'cause you're used to drinking sugar, you
Right.
know? You're used to now, you know, yeah, have one every now and then, so
I had some ice cream that is sweetened with honey rather than sugar.
nice.
The other day, it was good. Yeah, it was called, like, ice cream for
Yeah,
bears or something.
nice.
Uh,
It
turns out I like honey.
yeah, honey's good. Honey is good.
So, no caffeine, healthy diet, you're lifting. What,
Trying.
you got your stuff together.
I'm
Um,
trying, I'm really working on it.
yeah. You get down to Columbus at all?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been down that way for a while.
I occasionally get up into the Canton area. My wife is from there, so if we go up and visit family,
Oh,
I may
okay.
have to drop in.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Um, what, uh what does it take to, what's the difference between being tough and, um how can I word this? The difference
Being tough and
between,
being good.
um yeah, yeah, or tough and durable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wanna say, like, Mr. Hyman used to have a thing he would talk about tough guys. He's like, "You know, you can be a tough guy and go run your head into the wall, right? But
Yeah,
that doesn't prove that you're anything, right?" Um, there's a lot of tough guys out there, and a lot of them don't make it through jujitsu, right? Because 'Cause they're not, you know, maybe it's an ego thing or they're just not built for it. So yeah,
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 there's a lot of yeah, you gotta have some durability to stick with jujitsu.
for sure. And, not only that, the ego piece of it, um, if your ego's not healthy, you're not gonna make it.
You're not, no, and I think there's we talk about ego a lot being bad. I don't think it's all bad, right? We all have a little bit of it. I think it's a little necessary. It's just
Sure.
that riding that line of it.
Yeah. It's a different, the difference between confident and cocky. You need
Yeah,
to try
for
to
sure.
build confidence and, have
Right.
healthy ego. Um, the unhealthy
Yeah.
ego stuff is that's the guy that throws a tantrum when he gets tapped um,
Yes.
or lets himself
Yeah.
break before he taps.
Yep.
Those guys don't last. Um,
No, they do not. No. Yeah, I think the biggest thing you gotta, we talk about going back to durability and longevity, and all of us have aches and pains. And I always talk to my guys about, are you hurt or are you injured?
yeah,
Because if you're injured, you might want to go get checked out, take some time off. Um, but if you're hurt, train how you can. I think that's a lot of people get a little ache or pain. They're like, I got to take off. I'm like, well, what's going on? Can you at least drill? Maybe you don't roll for a little while. Um,
yeah,
and I try to really and again, I will say this is easier because it is my job. When I was out with my knee, I was still sitting in on classes
for
and
sure.
watching, right? Sure. Watching the other instructors teach. And one thing that, Dave Miller, my original instructor at the basement, would tell me is like, always ask a question. So, I would ask one of my other black belts, hey, why do you do this that way? I might know the answer, but somebody else might not know how to ask the question. Right. So, yeah. And I just try to get guys that are going to be maybe off the mats rolling for a while, at least still come in. Like put your gi on, keep that repetition and that routine going. Because as you know, you're out for a couple weeks and then it's 3 weeks and then you don't see them for a little bit longer. And then, you know,
Yeah. Well, that's so like everybody remembers their first time going to jujitsu, right? You're
yeah,
like you have all this like nervousness and trepidation. If you
yeah,
take months off, you're gonna have a lot of that same energy going back. You're like, man, I'm on my way to go get killed because I haven't been training.
yeah.
Yeah,
For as
you
long as
understand. Go ahead.
Yeah, for as long as it takes us to build a routine and habit, it doesn't take long for you to get out of it.
Yeah.
It can go
Yeah.
away really fast.
Yeah. I treat it as something that's not an option. Even, I've got a neck thing going on, and it's been a couple months now almost. And
Yeah.
I went through the round of Toradol, took a little time, still going to class, try not to roll. I'm also the type that I'm guilty of not being able to go and just watch.
Yeah.
But it's still not an option. I don't let it be an optional thing for me. I go and
Yeah.
train, period.
Go train. Yeah.
And my wife understands it, if I say that
Mhm.
I'm going to train, I'm going to train. And that's
Yeah.
that's that's the way it works for me.
Yeah.
Of course, if it's your job, you have to go because that's how you put food on the table.
Well, that's how you get yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that old chestnut. So if you, how many students are you said you get 20, 30 on the mats every day?
It depends, but, the more we have a lot more class options, so some of the classes are a little smaller than they used to be, but we probably have a little over 100 jujitsu students.
Okay,
Yeah, probably around there. With all the other programs, we're probably around, we probably have 240 students, I would assume, somewhere in there with everything else.
that's awesome. How many of them do more than just jujitsu, or are they cross training?
There's a few. There's less that cross train than do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I feel, people have this time set aside and this is what they're gonna choose, right? You know, you're gonna do kickboxing, maybe you do jujitsu, maybe you do both every now and again, but
Yeah.
most
Yeah,
pick one or the other.
that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
and do you mix I've trained at schools where we will have certain months of no gi and then gi, and then where I'm at now, there's days where you can train both gi, no gi, depending on what time you go.
Yeah.
What's that split like for you?
We're still mainly gi. We do like Thursdays, no matter if you come at noon or AM, it's always no gi. Our open mats typically tend to be more no gi just because we don't do it a lot. And
Interesting.
then, yeah, and then I teach a noon class, and the first Monday and Wednesday of each month is no gi for that.
Okay,
Um, and then we do have we have like we call it intro to footlocks a couple times a month.
that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah. So we
think.
got I started. I said like we said before, I didn't come up doing a lot of footlocks, and even if you don't want to be a footlocker, I feel like you have to learn the offense to learn the defense, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I
So
think one of the one of the last times I think I was challenged. We talk about healthy egos. I think the last time I
yeah,
got really angry on the mats,
hmm yeah,
um, was back. I didn't have any Southside game.
right.
Really, just never was doing footlocks, and I was rolling with a guy that his purple belt season was he was going to become the leg lock guy, and
Ah,
he just would leg lock the shit out of me, and there was a roll where like I hit this frustration where he was leg locking me, and I just hit this point where it's like I don't know how to stop this. Um,
yeah,
and he brought it up. Actually, he was a guest on my podcast. He brought it up, and he was like, I thought you might hit me." Like he thought that like I was like fighting angry, and it was not really anger with him, even though he was
yeah,
the one. He was involved. It was anger in myself that like I just cannot stop this, and I just have to figure out how
yeah,
to defend these leg locks
yeah,
because boy, I hate tapping to them.
yeah. It sucks.
Um, yeah, and I okay. When do you think leg locks should be introduced to the practitioner? You think they should start out at the beginning and kind of work those in like anything else,
Uh,
or
I
do you think
used to
it's
be
good to
the
wait?
yeah. I think if you had, this could go back to the atmosphere of your room, right? So we have a couple leg lock only classes a month, and it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a certain rank. It could be your second day. Now, I would probably kind of recommend to the newer people, like, hey, let's learn a little bit before we jump into this class.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you really have to trust your students and the instructors leading that class, um, to lay down some ground rules. Like, hey, for one, if you compete, you're never going to be able to do this until you get your black belt, even if it's no-gi, right? Like, or
Right.
maybe brown belt. Um, and never ever in the gi are we going to be doing heel hooks and that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of communication that needs to be done. 5 years ago, I probably have a different answer. We're like, absolutely not. Do not teach this to new people.
Yeah. Well,
But I on that
so,
a little.
there's a safety issue,
Yes.
that you're alluding to. But what
Yeah.
about, you also alluded earlier to, maybe the guy that can't pass guard yet,
Yeah.
and he hasn't learned how to be good at passing guard and falls back on the leg locks.
Yep.
Um, you know, I I had a coach that talked about, like, if you learn leg locks too early, you're not gonna develop, you know, the most important pieces of jujitsu.
Yeah.
It's gonna kinda stunt your growth, so to speak. So he doesn't like teaching them until you're, blue, purple belt.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
can see that too, and I think you see that with competition, right? You might have a guy that is maybe black belt level as a leg locker, but what is the rest of his game like? But he might not get exposed because his leg locks are so good. I think we see that a lot. Um,
yeah. What is it about the gi, and I've thought about this, and I don't know the answer. Why can't you heel hook in the gi, but you can in no gi?
my thoughts is because in no gi you could be a little more slippery to pull out.
Okay.
If you get reaped in a heel hook position in the gi, you're not. There's no way you're coming out of it.
Yeah, you're locked in.
You're locked in. So that's what I've always told people. I don't know where I heard that or who said it, but
That
that's
makes
kind of what
perfect
I.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Chad, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man.
Um,
Thank you.
you know, we've kind of gone back and forth a little bit on social media, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to I love to be able to connect with other people, especially in Ohio, that maybe I can get in and drop in at some point.
For sure,
Um,
dude. Yeah.
as far as your socials, where can we find you?
So I have my personal social on Instagram is slasher_BJJ. And then I have all the Instagram pages or the social media pages for Limitless Tape on Instagram and Facebook. That's about it, really. You can follow us at East Coast Martial Arts for the main page. If any upcoming things, we'll bring in seminars every now and again. Every year we do a what I call a cancer awareness seminar. I started kind of when Mr. Hyman was diagnosed, and we donate all the money to a local. We use the Altman Foundation up here. It's right in our backyard. We just donated a little over $11,000 to them for last year's event. So I bring in a high level jujitsu guy, maybe a local guy, whatever. Yeah, have him teach a seminar, and all the money goes to a good cause.
That's outstanding. I
Yeah,
love it when gyms give back.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We've done this year. Once it happens, it'll be our 14th annual. So
very cool.
we've been doing.
Does
I've
that
had anywhere from like I've had Lucas Lepre in to I mean every you look at the list and it's I had John Carlo was in the year he won ADCC.
wow.
Like it just worked out that I got him committed to it, and like he won ADCC, but like a week before he came or something.
That's
Yeah,
I mean, it's fun when you can learn from guys that are at the pinnacle of company. Did
yeah.
you compete?
Not much. I did a little bit at white belt. I don't think I then I did one. I went to Chicago Open at purple belt. Didn't do very well, and yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
very cool. Um, so if you want to find Chad Kuhn, obviously you can go to his website. All of his links will be in the podcast show description in the notes. Um, as well as Still Rolling Jiu Jitsu. You can find Still Rolling Jiu Jitsu on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. You can find us on Spotify and Apple and YouTube. As far as the podcast goes, the video version is YouTube only. Um, And I appreciate you coming back and tuning in. Chad, I appreciate you coming and
Thank you,
spending your
sir.
time with me. That's a thing that is finite and we don't get it back. So the fact that you're willing to spend some time with me, then that's always appreciated.
Yes,
So
sir.
again, thank you. And this has been Still Rolling.